Allen Iverson, just 6 feet tall, was one of the smallest guys to ever play in the NBA. But on the court, he played like he was 7 feet, going toe-to-toe with some of the biggest names in basketball history. To this day, fans and players alike look back and ask, how good was prime Allen Iverson? Let's go on a journey through Iverson's incredible story to find the answer. Trust me, this is one of those tales that's hard to forget. It's the 1996 NBA draft, and there's this electrifying young guard coming out of Georgetown named Allen Iverson.
With the first pick in the 1996 NBA draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select Allen Iverson from Georgetown University.
No one quite like him had ever entered the NBA. With his blinding speed, explosive scoring ability, and killer crossover, Iverson was more than just a talented player. He was a movement waiting to happen. But this movement wasn't just about basketball skills. It was about changing the culture of the game. From the moment he stepped onto an NBA court, Iverson played with a passion and intensity that immediately set him apart. He was drafted #1 overall by the Philadelphia 76ers, a major feat for someone who had been doubted his entire life. But for Iverson, it was never about proving others wrong. It was about showing what he was made of. Allen Iverson wasn't just any player. He came into the league with a swagger that resonated with fans. Here was a guy covered in tattoos, rocking cornrows, and dressed in oversized hip-hop-inspired outfits. In an NBA dominated by bigger players, Iverson brought a new level of street-style grit to the game, and he made it look good. Kids wanted to be like him. They wanted his moves, his swagger, his style. But Iverson wasn't just a trendsetter. He was the real deal on the court. And when he reached his prime, people began to realize that they were watching something special. At the peak of his powers, Iverson was unguardable. He played like he had something to prove every single night. And it wasn't just that he scored a lot, though he definitely did, averaging over 30 points per game during his best seasons. It was how he scored that made Iverson unforgettable. He drove to the basket with a fearlessness that was almost reckless. Time and time again, he would launch himself at defenders twice his size, getting knocked down, getting up, and doing it all over again. For Iverson, there was no such thing as fear. His signature move, the crossover, left even the best defenders on their heels. Just ask Michael Jordan, whom Iverson famously crossed over during his rookie year. It was a move that solidified his place in NBA history and made him a household name overnight. In the 2000 to 2001 season, Iverson reached his absolute prime. He was unstoppable, leading the league in scoring and stealing the MVP title. That year, he carried a Sixers team that didn't have a second superstar, driving them all the way to the NBA Finals against the powerhouse Los Angeles Lakers. Iverson wasn't supposed to be able to win. The odds were stacked against him. But in Game 1 of that series, Iverson did what he always did. He showed up. He dropped 48 points in one of the most memorable performances in finals history, including the iconic moment where he hit a clutch shot and stepped over Tyronn Lue. It was a statement, not just to the Lakers, but to the world. Allen Iverson was here, and he wasn't backing down. But it wasn't just about what Iverson did in the finals. In every game, night after night, he played like his life depended on it. His tenacity, his relentless drive, and his refusal to quit became his trademarks. Iverson was playing in an era where the NBA was full of giants, and he didn't just hold his own, he thrived. But the thing about Iverson was that he wasn't perfect. He had flaws, sure. His shooting percentages weren't always great, and some people criticized him for taking too many shots. But that's what made Iverson so unique. He wasn't afraid to take risks, to put everything on the line. He was willing to shoulder the weight of an entire franchise, knowing that if he didn't shoot, his team probably wouldn't score. One of the most interesting parts of Iverson's story is the impact he had off the court. He wasn't just an NBA player, he was a cultural icon. His style influenced a generation, and his unapologetic authenticity made him a hero to millions of fans who felt like they finally had a player they could relate to. Iverson showed that you didn't have to fit into the NBA's clean-cut image to be successful. He made it okay to be yourself, to bring your whole self to the game, and that resonated with fans in a big way. For Iverson, basketball wasn't just about winning. It was about representing where he came from, his struggles, and his triumphs. But Iverson's legacy isn't without controversy. Critics often argue that he could have played differently, passed more, and been more efficient. Some said he was too focused on being the lone star rather than adapting to a team-centered approach. And while there's some truth in that, it's essential to remember the context. Iverson was on a Sixers team that relied on him to score. He was their only option, their best chance at victory. And despite his flaws, he never backed down. He played through injuries that would sideline most players. He played through pain, and even when he was criticized, he kept going. So how good was prime Allen Iverson? In simple terms, he was one of a kind. There's a reason why he's so deeply respected by today's NBA players. Despite being smaller than most, he had the heart of a giant. He took on defenders like Shaq, went head-to-head with legends like Kobe, and inspired an entire generation of players to go all in, no matter the odds. Iverson retired without a championship ring, but in the eyes of his fans, that didn't matter. He gave everything he had, every night, and for those who watched him play, that was more valuable than any trophy. Allen Iverson's prime wasn't just about stats and accolades. It was about grit, resilience, and heart. He played like he had something to prove, like he was fighting for more than just the game. He became a legend, not because he was perfect, but because he was real, raw, and relentless. Even now, years after his retirement, Allen Iverson remains unforgettable. For anyone who watched his prime, it's clear, Allen Iverson wasn't just good. He was greatness in its purest, most unfiltered form.